Because the down payment is sort of an archaic method of ascertaining credit, and so, we should just get rid of it. Whatever's standing in the way of everybody having his own home, we should just get rid of that. I won't even get into, you should listen to Peter Schiff on why it makes more sense to rent half the time. You have none of the headaches. Give the landlord all the headaches. You just enjoy the pleasure of living there, for goodness sake. You are not throwing your money out the window by any means doing that. Okay. I wish I had a glass of water. Is this for me? Yes. Oh, good. I was hoping you were going to say that. Okay. Oh, 2 more. Well, I'm not planning to go on that much longer, so pardon me 1 second. Okay, good. All right. Let me start sort of wrapping things up there. I think I've condemned the Fed sufficiently. I do want to say, by the way, one last thing about the mortgage market is that there were regulators looking at it. The Fed's regulators. Ben Bernanke, our Fed chairman, told us around late 2006 that his regulators had investigated the mortgage market and found it was in better shape than ever. So they're the experts again. So again, we have to trust regulators for our well-being. I mean, we had some. So you're going to tell me that we're going to be able to find regulators who are going to have the backbone to stand up and tell the federal government the opposite of what it obviously wants to hear, which is that the mortgage market is in great shape. You're telling me we have to rely for our prosperity on the backbone of a few regulators who are going to have the courage to stand up against the entire federal government, all of academia, and all of the media. Well, you know what? I think I need maybe a firmer foundation for American prosperity. We should demand one. Now, as we observe what the federal government is doing, it is, of course, doing exactly the opposite of what it should be doing. I mean, every single time, without fail, it does exactly the opposite of what it should do. And now the opposition party, such as it is, has sometimes been better than it has been over the years, although what credibility the opposition party could have on fiscal responsibility is totally beyond me. I've had people say, what are you? Why weren't you criticizing George W. Bush? I was. That's all I've done for years, right? It was like my whole career was criticizing this. I almost don't know what to do with myself. I have to keep erasing Bush and typing in Obama. However, the criticism is still the same. You're still a warmonger. You're still against civil liberties. You're still for the drug war. You're still basically the same guy, except you give better speeches. Now, all the same, but when I say the opposition party, though, some of them have been sort of okay on this. But others, their response is to say, well, if our party had drafted the stimulus bill, we would have blown the $800 billion on different things. I think that's not really the point. Because consider what Austrian business cycle theory implicitly suggests needs to be done during the downturn phase. Now, strictly speaking, I'm not talking about the genuine pain that real human beings are enduring right now because of what the Fed has done to us. I am not in any way disparaging that. But when I say to you that the recession or downturn phase is actually the restoration of health to the economy, I mean this in a macro sense. What I mean is that it is actually during the boom phase that the damage is done. Because it's during the boom phase that the master builder of our analogy is building a house he can't possibly finish. And therefore he is squandering our wealth and making us all the poorer. It is during the boom phase that investors are engaged in projects for which there is insufficient demand and for which the necessary resources do not exist. They are squandering resources and making us poorer. That's where the damage is done. The recession is the phase in which the economy tries, against every effort of government, to sort this out. To stop and say, all right, we have got investment lines that make no sense. We have to sort out which of these projects is sustainable and rational, and which of these projects is just a bubble project that can persist profitably only so long as the monetary spigot is unleashed. And as I've said, it is a bad thing for genuine wealth generators to have to compete with activities that can exist only so long as artificial money is pumped in. That is bad. That makes us poorer. We should want those businesses to go out of business. If people are now deciding, hey, I'm not as rich as I thought I was. I don't want that $7 ice cream cone anymore. If Cold Stone Creamery starts closing some shops, that is a good thing because that was a squandering of resources in the first place. We are poorer if we prop them up. We don't want to. That just sucks more resources into them. And I don't mean to single them out. If some of you work for that company, I'm sure they make wonderful food. Not the point. But that's what the economy is trying to do. It is trying to reprice assets. It's trying to reprice all kinds of consumer and capital goods to figure out what's profitable, what isn't, liquidate what's unprofitable, and shift those resources into producing things that people want, that are sustainable. So you don't prop up failing firms. You let them go. Because all you're doing is sucking wealth that is necessary for the wealth-generating sectors of the economy. You certainly do not interfere with wages and prices. They need to fluctuate. Wages may need to come down in some places because we've overproduced there. We don't need that many people working there anymore, and we need to reallocate labor elsewhere. Maybe wages need to go up someplace else because we've artificially starved this industry in the meanwhile. These things need to be allowed to proceed through the natural nexus of voluntary exchange of buyers and sellers, figuring out where this all should settle out. Now, meanwhile, what we've instead had, and of course, by the way, don't keep printing money, obviously, that's what caused the problem. Don't keep forcing interest rates artificially low, that's what caused the problem. So don't do that. So what are they instead doing? Well, they're putting interest rates at about zero, they're flooding the economy with money, they're making it hard for businesses to go bankrupt. In fact, now we just read this morning that the ex-chairman of AIG is saying, the bailout has failed, we really should have just let AIG go bankrupt. But, some of us were condemned, oh, you hate America because you don't want to support AIG. A totally crooked company, I'm sure, by the way. I don't want to support AIG, so I'm anti-American or something. The qualifications of being a good American seem to change like every 10 minutes. I can't even keep up with it. All right, so they're trying to do the exact opposite. And then they try this stimulus thing. And, I just don't get how people can support that. And it's because what part of this money doesn't exist? Are people not getting? Sure, it would be wonderful to weatherize 2 million American homes if we had the money for it. But it would be like me saying to you, okay, you've got all these problems that have been caused by your excessive credit card debt. So, why don't you go put an addition on your house and just take out a loan from the bank? What kind of an answer is that? So the stimulus is like somebody who drinks Red Bull instead of sleeping and thinks, this is how I'm going to stay awake, baby. I don't need any of that sleep thing. I just need Red Bull. Red Bull. Red Bull. That's all I need. But of course we know that Red Bull means that the crash is still coming. It's going to be much worse. Much worse. What you're really doing is you're exhausting whatever part of your body has not been totally exhausted, is now totally exhausted. Well, likewise, here we've got this diminishing sector of profitability in the economy, and we're going to smash it with $800 billion, where a lot of this is borrowed money, which means now, the federal government is saying, gee, how are businesses going to borrow? Well, let's borrow half a trillion dollars. Well, okay, that's $500 billion not available for the private sector to borrow, thank you very much. So the private sector also has resources bid away from it by the government. So now prices go up in these various sectors. The free economy is trying to figure out, again, what should be produced, what shouldn't be produced. We have imbalances in the economy. Now, unfortunately, Keynesians and mainstream economists, they're all thinking in terms of totally unhelpful aggregates. We need to get, we need this amount of investment, this amount of consumption. They're all thinking in terms of aggregates. The aggregates are totally useless to us right now. It's not that we need more or less investment. It's what kinds of investment do we need? What I've described to you tonight is a very sophisticated view of capital that views capital as existing in a series of stages, far away from the consumer, and then ever closer in stages. So mining as being very far from consumers, and then manufacturing all the way down, all the way to a retail store or services, and right down to the consumer. But for mainstream economics, capital is just one letter, K, and that's their variable for capital. So they can't even perceive the problems I'm describing. Because what I've described is the capital structure has been totally discombobulated because the interference with interest rates makes the higher order stages of production artificially more profitable. Well, they don't even see that. All they just see is K. They just see capital. They don't see that it's different stages.